Hey guys, so I get tons of questions from you, whether they're on social media, whether you slide into my DMs, and truth be told, one of the reasons I started coaching and consulting small businesses in the baking industry is because I got so many questions all the time. How do I start a business? What do I do about naming my business? What do I do if someone's trying to steal my stuff? How do I hire employees? And truthfully, I was running my business with 17 employees and I just didn't have time to really answer them. So now that I have retired officially from the Cake Mamas, I no longer have all of that staff and I don't have my bakery anymore, I'm able to travel around and interact with people like you who might have a business or a business idea, and I can share all of the things that I've gone through in hopes that you get to avoid them. This is the first time in 5 days I've actually put on makeup and done my hair. I recently had surgery on my foot and have been very immobile. My house might be a mess in the back because I'm home alone for the first time, trying to hobble around and take care of myself, but I thought it would be a great opportunity to do a quick Q&A, so let's do that in this video. First question is, what made you get into the culinary field? And I will just tell you, my first job was working at a grocery store. I have never, fun fact about me, I've never had a job in food at all. I've never worked in a kitchen, I've never worked in a bakery, and so opening a bakery is like the last thing that anyone would expect from me, especially because I had a corporate background and always worked in some sort of, not necessarily an office, but for a large corporation that had nothing to do with food. As a matter of fact, I was in consumer electronics before I started my business. But the truth is, I was forced into the food industry just out of sheer desperation. Along with my husband, had lost my job in 2009. There's a whole podcast episode on how we lost our jobs and filed bankruptcy. I've shared that many times, so I'll leave some resources in the comment section for you. But because we were both laid off, we were kind of in a desperate situation to figure out how to land on our feet and get new jobs. And I was just not having very much luck because it was the 2009 kind of crisis where everyone was laid off during that time. It was just tough to find a job. So to maintain my sanity, I started making cakes. Why? Because I saw Buddy making cakes on his new show, what was it, The Cake Boss. I remember it came out in April. I watched the first episode as I was cooking dinner, and I've always been really creative, so I was like, I bet I could make that too. I started playing around with cakes, got really good at it, and then the rest is kind of history. I started my business with my partner, Fabiola, and she actually had previous work experience in a bakery. And so with my business experience and her previous work experience working in the food industry, we thought we were the perfect match. So that's kind of how I stumbled into the culinary industry. Also important to note that when I fell in love with cakes, I wanted to sign up to go to culinary school. Le Cordon Bleu was one of the more prominent schools here in Los Angeles, and I applied and I got rejected. So never actually got my certification, never became a pastry chef, just started testing and creating. And then when we opened the Cake Mamas, we wound up hiring many certified pastry chefs that were able to help us kind of reinvent some of our recipes and come up with some really cool things that we wound up offering over the 12 years that we were in business. So that's how I wound up in the culinary industry. Why do I feel like my voice is cracking? This is a good question I get often, and that is, have you ever been reluctant to share your recipes with employees in fear that they're going to steal them from you? And the way I look at that is every business has insider secrets, right? Whether you work for a school district or in a doctor's office, there's always going to be behind the scenes things that are kind of their practices or their standard operating procedures and how they do business. And those things can be helpful in other businesses, but the likelihood of someone stealing your stuff to open a business and compete directly in your area is pretty unlikely. And so I remember all of the hard work and energy and resourcefulness and just information that was required for me to start my business. And so getting into the bakery, hiring employees, we did have them sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and we did talk to them about the importance of, hey, we're creating these recipes on site, just like if you were to work for Apple and help create iPhones, you can't claim them as your own. And so we had those conversations with our employees the moment that they started. They signed on and they agreed to withhold all of our trade secrets in our business and not share or photocopy the recipes. And the truth is, if they did, I kind of had the thought of, well, I know how hard it was to start this business. And so if you were to be shady and do that, then good luck doing all of the other things that is required to start a business, because it takes a lot of work, time, energy, commitment, and money. And so the likelihood of someone taking my recipes, opening up a bakery that's close to me, and then selling exactly what I'm selling is not really very high. Now, I do know of a business that's happened to, but that's like one in, I don't know, the 1,000 business owners that I know. And even in that situation, the person that stole the recipes never wound up coming up on top. Actually, I know of two situations. One situation was this favorite restaurant, my favorite restaurant that I go to for breakfast. His lead cook / business partner stole his recipes and opened a business right next door to him. His business did not do well, and within years they went out of business. Another one, which is a Chinese restaurant that I heard of that has been in my community for about 25 years. The owner actually told me that his original business partner opened in the same complex. So I guess it can happen, but the likelihood of someone succeeding, especially when they're starting a business not on the right terms, is highly unlikely. And I do believe in karma, and so I think if you put out good energy and you treat your employees well, and you give them proper expectations and let them know how hard you guys are working in your business to protect your intellectual property, I think most people have it in their heart to do right by you if you do right by them. How do you land the expectation with employees around time management and get them to understand the importance of it? And I will say that this is something we talk about often in our 8-week masterclass, Passion to Profit, where we teach business owners how to create profitable businesses. We talk about this a lot because it really comes down to your habits and the way that you manage your time, right? So a lot of people don't realize, but when you become a business owner and you start to hire employees, the most important role that you are playing on a day-to-day basis is not a baker, it's not being the owner, it's not giving great customer service, it's actually being a great leader to your employees. Whether they are volunteers, family members, whatever it is that you have, being a great leader starts with you and your habits. Even when I was working from home, I will say, especially when I was working from home, I was managing my 3 daughters, their soccer and volleyball schedules. And so time management was super important to me in order to grow the business and also be a mom and manage and maintain all of my responsibilities. I had to get really good at time management. By the time I got into my bakery, I really understood how to be efficient with things. And so when I was training employees, they would see the pace that I was operating at, and we always use the word efficiency, like what's the more efficient way to do this? And so the answer to that is they're going to take on all the habits that you have. If you have a habit of procrastinating or seeking perfectionism, you can expect your employees to follow in the same suit that you are because they think that that's the right way to do things. So if you want to get really good at time management, my tip to you is start with yourself. Put yourself on timers, make sure that you're being really diligent with how much time you're spending working on things, whether you're revising your website, whether you're reaching out to clients and responding back to quotes, or whether you're making cakes. Always monitor your time and then figure out ways to shave off time to create more efficiencies. And then when you pass those along to your employees, then everything will be like a well-oiled machine. Okay, the next question is, how do you approach a situation where another local business is copying branding ideas and your business structure? The branding ideas I can relate to. I actually had an employee that signed the NDA that worked for us for about a year and then decided that she was gonna move on. We threw a party for her, and then she decided to launch her business the day after she left my business. The only thing was a lot of our employees had followed her on social media, and so they called me and said, hey, we need to bring something to your attention. I think you're gonna be upset by this. And lo and behold, she had launched her business, which was also a baking business, and she had used all of the photos that we took at the Cake Mamas on her own website, which that is highly illegal because you are creating intellectual property for the Cake Mamas while being an employee. It is not yours and you don't have the right to actually take it. So she could have actually gotten permission if she would have asked me, but she didn't. So then I go on her website, I start looking around. Her flavors are the same as mine, the same return policy, lots of different things. And so immediately I contacted an attorney. That's one of those things that you don't think that you're gonna need as a business owner, but you should always have someone in your back pocket that you can call in times like that, explain to them what's going on, and then they can let you know legally what your rights are to protect your brand. So the answer to the question is contact an attorney, do some research, and figure out how to protect yourself. But if they're stealing things pertaining to your branding, if it's like your brand, if it's the same name as your brand, all of those things, an attorney can give you lots of guidance and let you know like what your rights are. And sometimes they will deliver a cease and desist and tell the person who's like violating these laws that, you know, they're outside of these boundaries and your business will take legal action if they don't, you know, stop doing whatever it is that they're doing. So seek legal advice. Having an attorney give you advice is always gonna be something that you want to have access to. Do some asking around your community, especially with other business owners, and see who can give you a referral to an attorney. As far as stealing your business structure, I'm not sure what you actually mean by that, but when I think of business structure, I think of the fact that I used to work at Best Buy and they had standard operating procedures around scheduling, and a lot of the things that I learned through my experience at Best Buy have helped me be a great leader in my business. So that's not me stealing their processes or structures. I think all businesses, there's even books on it. Amazon has had many books written about their structure and their culture, and so people are always trying to emulate, you know, a business that is doing really well in certain categories, and they're trying to take those best practices for their business. So be clear that you're not thinking emotionally, because if it's like, hey, we saw this best practice from this company, they're doing really well at this, and we want to adopt that as well, that's not necessarily illegal. Okay, and the last question, which is kind of similar to that, it says, any advice about a local business who waits for my menu to come out and then literally copies every idea, but they put their own twist on it? I will just tell you that for years, there was a bakery that was within 15 miles of my bakery. They would literally wait every week for us to launch our new flavor of the week. And the moment that we would launch it, they would copy our exact flavor, our exact description. They would wait to see what we made it look like. They would use the exact same tip, the exact same everything, and maybe, you know, take it up, like make it 5% better. And that would be their flavor of the week as well. They did this for years. And all I could really do is send a nice email and just say, hey, I know that you see that this is creating brand confusion. I know you know what you're doing because now you've done this for 16 consecutive weeks. I'm trying to reach out to you to be professional. I did say something like, you know, the culinary industry is predominantly run by women. And I think that this is a bad look from a professional standpoint. So if we could hop on the phone and maybe talk this through and see what we could do about this, I would greatly appreciate it. Never heard back from them. And they just continued to do it. So we just continued to get better. So although it sucks and there's not really a lot of great advice when it comes to this, you kind of have to take the high road. And if I would have spent more time focusing on how bad that pissed me off, then I wouldn't have been able to spend the time that I was spending on trying to challenge myself and my staff to get better. I'm not saying that it didn't piss me off or it wasn't something that we talked about often in our bakery, but it was something that I couldn't afford to let that negativity steal my energy and rob my time. I needed to focus and readjust like what was important, and that was continuing to come up with innovative flavors, continuing to figure out ways to better serve our customers. And the reality is that they're not even that close to where we were direct competitors. hours. And so I don't know why they did that, but I like to think that it took a lot of time for them to sit there and figure out what the Cake Mamas was gonna do next before they could make a move. And that's not a cool place to be. So I hope that answers your question. If you have some questions that you'd like me to address or answer, I've got tons of stories, lots of experience to kind of draw from, but I love these questions, so please keep them coming. Maybe these stories inspire you, maybe they piss you off, maybe some of the things that happened to me have also happened to you. If you know somebody that would benefit from this video or someone that might have a question, I'm always happy to help. So please be sure to subscribe to this channel, share it with a friend, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.